Okay, Miriam, you're on.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our May 6th Diversity and Inclusion Committee meeting. Yeah, do you want to do a statement?
Yes, I will read this statement, of course. All right. Wait a minute. Okay. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. This meeting will be live streamed, but will have no option for public participation. To view or listen only, visit the live stream YouTube link posted on the town's website.
Awesome. All right, then we'll do roll, or what's it called? We'll do attendance. Just call everybody's name. Hamilton Soriano.
Here.
Virginia Sims George.
Present.
Lauren Bailey Jones.
Present.
Sheikah Holland.
Present.
Deirdre Writing.
Present.
Becca Meekins.
Here.
And I am here, Miriam Ibrahimi. So our first point on the agenda is to approve our April 1st meeting minutes. Do a roll call vote for that. Hamilton Soriano.
Aye.
Let's get a, Miriam, just before we do roll call, just we need to get a motion.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Just
You're right.
if anybody has any, it's okay. If anybody has any corrections or changes that they'd like to make, now's the time.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second that.
All right. Deirdre made a motion. Sheikah seconded it. And I think now we can do a roll call vote. Hamilton Soriano.
Aye.
Virginia Sims George.
Aye.
Lauren Bailey Jones.
Abstain.
Sheikah Holland.
Aye.
Deirdre Writing.
Aye.
And I will also approve. So the meeting minutes have been approved. And then we will move on to our second point on the agenda, and that is our meeting with Superintendent Martineau and Rhoda Webb to discuss the Coalition for Equity and just diversity, equity, inclusion in the school district, and how us as the Northborough Diversity and Inclusion Committee can work with the coalition and kind of talk to you guys about it. Thank you guys for being here today and meeting with us.
So first of all, thank you for inviting us, and we're thrilled to take this opportunity and to learn a little bit more about your committee, but also share some of the work that we are doing as a larger school district. And I see several familiar faces, so you know, it's nice to see everyone this evening. And with me this evening is Rhoda Webb, and Rhoda and I will tell our story, and would be happy to answer questions, and would love to talk about ideas and think about how we can make connections between the town work and also the school district's work. So I'll begin. I'll just share that, you know, about a year, actually 2 years ago, the district launched into a strategic planning process. Vision 2020, was hard to believe it was 2020 already, came to fruition. And as a result, as a district, we spent the entirety of last year really developing a new vision and a new strategic plan to kind of guide our work. And a major strategic objective of that plan was really around equity of opportunity. And we really spent a lot of time thinking about, you know, what type of graduates do we want leaving Algonquin Regional High School? What type of students do we want leaving, you know, Peaslee as fifth graders heading into Milliken? You know, what type of eighth graders do we want leaving heading into Algonquin? We had a lot of community forums, and we used the portrait of a graduate And the question we asked is what, skills, knowledge, and attributes do we want our students to leave Algonquin Regional High School with? And we actually came up with a set of attributes, and those are critical and creative thinkers, communicators, socially and civic engaged, growth-oriented, and healthy and balanced. And then underneath each of those, we have sub-bullets, and I'll just read a few so you can get a sense of what those are. So like critical and creative thinkers, I think we want students to be able to demonstrate thinking that is clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence. I think critical thinking is essential as students, move to the next grade level, the next school, or are prepared for the world of citizenship, college, or career. In terms of communicators, really thinking about, students to be able to decipher meaning, including knowledge, values, attitudes, intentions. In terms of socially and civically engaged, we want students to be able to demonstrate civic and social integrity through ethical and empathetic behaviors. We want them to recognize individual and communal impact on others in the natural world, and value and embrace diverse cultures and unique perspectives through mutual respect and open dialogue. And then the last one that I'll share is healthy and balanced, that develop awareness, sensitivity, concern, and respect to connect with self and others' feelings, opinions, experiences, and cultures. So we spent a lot of time really thinking about, okay, again, what are the knowledge, skills, and attributes we want to help our students develop as they leave Algonquin Regional High School. And equity of opportunity was one of our 5 strategic objectives, and really thinking about what type of opportunities do students need to be able to demonstrate and learn and develop those skills and attributes. And also thinking about, equity does not mean equal, but rather making sure students receive what each student needs in order to move along the journey of his or her education. And we also, through the strategic planning process, came up with reaffirmed our core values as a district. And those are integrity, empathy, inclusivity, equity, perseverance, and respect. So we spent a lot of time thinking about, what are those strategic objectives that we want to accomplish through the vision planning process, what the attributes and skills, knowledge of students are, and also, again, what are those core values? This all connects because, again, I think that the work around diversity, equity, and inclusion is essential in the learning that our students are doing. It goes to understanding perspectives. We are very culturally and linguistically diverse, becoming more diverse. And we want students to be able to discourse, dialogue, deepen their understanding, and really think critically about the world around them. And I'll have Rhoda speak to some of the specific outcomes as a result of the strategic plan that we've moved forward with. But one of our action items was to develop a coalition for equity, that the community around us, there are many experts and a great wealth of resources, and trying to connect those resources to the work that we were trying to accomplish as a district. So we did form a coalition, and that was formed over the summer and began its work this fall. And it was really to capture the expertise, knowledge of those experts in our community. So on the coalition, we have students, faculty and staff, parents, community members, and it's a very diverse group with a lot of different areas of expertise and strength. So I'll have Rhoda speak a little bit about some of the work that the coalition has engaged in, and also some of the specific learning that we're moving forward with our faculty and staff, but also with our students as a result of the coalition.
There we go. I realized I was muted. So It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. So the work of the coalition, which is a journey and is not ending by the end of the school year, but we divided up into groups, and our overall task, as Greg mentioned, was to build community partnerships focused on equity issues in our district, and create the conditions for courageous conversations to support collaborative learning about inequality, and identify and develop resources to support learning and action. So the journey that we've been on this year, members of our coalition were represented on the mascot study group that took place at Algonquin Regional High School. Other members became part of the community partnerships to explore outreach in our community. Another group is focusing on policy handbooks and procedures, and another group on curriculum and instruction. And in this way, we have met almost monthly throughout the year. We have one more meeting for this year. As regards the mascot, there was a presentation, and I believe the community is aware of the results of the study that took place this year. And I'll let Greg address that, that very briefly. With policies, handbooks, and procedures, what the group is looking at are protocols to be able to evaluate the policies within our district and schools, to have a tool by which to look at how the policy affects our community, and therefore when policies are reviewed or designed, to be able to look at it to make sure that they are looked through the lens of equity. The curriculum and instruction group is looking at, again, procedures and tools to be able to evaluate our curriculum, the resources that we're using throughout our schools, and to be able to then, as a district, to implement those tools in our schools. And the works will continue. The work isn't completed by the end of this year. This is a journey that we will be on, and we're taking the work that is being done with a coalition as a partnership with the students, with our community members and faculty to our schools to implement as we're working on it. Now, what has been happening also in the district is, I would say our journey started, like Greg mentioned, a few years ago, in attending professional development at Assabet Valley Collaborative, for example. We attended trainings with Zaretta Hammond, Patty De La Rosa, Kathy Cummins. We have a group of leaders, teachers who have designed professional development. And for 2 years in a row now, it is highly attended by our teachers in how to address the diverse students that we have in our classrooms. We also have a group of teachers that co-plan with administrators what professional development is going to look like as regards a culturally responsive teaching and equity. And as an example, in September, when we had our professional development days, the 10 days of professional development, one of the mornings was devoted to culturally responsive teaching. And that was designed by a group of English language development teachers who have been in training for a couple of years. We also visited a school in Boston to see how they were implementing culturally responsive teaching and living it. So that PD was called A Conversation About Being Culturally Responsive, and then conversations were facilitated in each of our 10 schools. I think what is noteworthy is that we have the teacher capacity to have conversations and facilitate professional learning within our 10 schools. So that's what you will see that happened this year. When we had a district-wide PD day in November, the keynote speaker was Dr. Sarah Fireman, who's a co-author with Tracy Benson, and her book is called Unconscious Bias in Schools. Her presentation was co-planned with teachers as regards what did we need in our district, and her keynote was called Unconscious Bias, one tool for combating, it was called Windows and Mirrors, one tool for combating unconscious bias in schools. And again, after the keynote in each of the schools, they were work sessions led by teachers. And then in our March PD day, we planned another one with administrators for our 10 schools to continue with the theme of windows and mirrors, because that's what our teachers, our faculty and staff, their response was to continue with the theme, to be able to draw this down into the classroom and practical applications, which means looking at our libraries and starting to analyze curriculum units from the point of view of equity, like whose stories are told, whose stories are missing. And to take action. So that has been the theme for this year, which is action-based, and which will be going into next year as well. We also realize that another very important area that we are working on is the conversations that we want to have happen among students. And so we're forming a partnership with Anti-Defamation League for next year to be working with our students as peer leaders with a program of A World of Difference, which is an anti-bias peer training program. And this will happen at our middle school, Melican Middle School, Trotter Middle School, and Algonquin Regional High School for next year. And one of the goals of this is that we all need to be using the same language and learning the same language, and also how to navigate very difficult conversations. And of course, with the idea of, being able to be aware of our own biases, and also to be building a more equitable society. And another plan for next year, and I don't know, Greg, if you want to address this, but part of our strategic plan is having an equity audit. Would you like to address that, Greg?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So just a couple of comments too, in terms of the work that we're doing. So we're doing a lot of work with our faculty, staff, and employees in terms of providing our professional learning opportunities for them to confront their own biases, helping break down stereotypes, and really learning from them and hearing stories. At the same time, we're trying to move as a professional learning organization in terms of our faculty and staff and employees. We're also talking about what's going to be most impactful in terms of what students are experiencing. So although we are moving along this journey as a professional organization, what's most important is the learning experiences students are experiencing in the classroom. So Rhoda, mentioned one program that came out as an outcome of the coalition, and that is A World of Difference. I think we're very excited about that. This is hot off the press in terms of this was just a recent meeting that we had with the Melican Middle School principal, Michelle Karb and Sean Bevan, and they're very excited about launching this program in the fall. I will share also that we've done a lot of work looking at our curriculum resources, history and social science. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education launched new history and social science frameworks a number of years ago. And our educators are taking a leadership role around thinking about what tools and resources are best suited to accomplishing the goals that we want to accomplish in terms of history and social science. Part of that work is evaluating the tools through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are launching Discovery Education as the primary tool that was decided upon. And that was really because it's a very dynamic tool. It's not a static textbook. As the world changes and as things happen around the world, the content's updated in real time. And it also has a strong diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective from the resources. Those are just two examples of some of the work that we're doing around trying to make sure that as we're moving along this journey, making sure that what students are experiencing in the classroom is impactful and they're going along the journey with us as well. In terms of the equity audit, so part of the strategic plan was really thinking about having an outside lens come in and evaluate our learning organization. I think we do a lot of things well, but I think it's always best practice to have another outside set of eyes and ears and lens to really evaluate what we're doing, how we're doing it, and if it can be improved. So we evaluated a number of companies to help us kind of launch this equity audit. One was the Assabet Valley Collaborative, which our district is a member of. There were two other companies that we looked at, and we decided to use Mass Insights for an equity audit because of the way it was organized and really the alignment that their process had to our strategic plan. So we actually wrote it. Dr. Reinhorn and I had a meeting with Mass Insight this afternoon to start launching the work. And the equity audit will take place over the next 4 to 5 months. And it is an in-depth process. It will require a lot of conversations, a lot of community forums, a lot of review of curriculum. And what we're trying to establish is a real baseline of, okay, what are we doing well? What are areas we really need to hone in on and do a better job at? And how can we move this anti-racism curriculum forward in terms of the work? So those are just a couple of action-oriented items that we're moving forward with. And as Rhoda said, this is a learning journey. This is not something that is you have a professional development and then you move on. This is a long-term commitment that we have as a public school system.
Hi, everybody. I apologize for being late. I wish I had some sort of wonderful excuse like Superman came and needed me to save the planet, but it was just my kids had hockey games tonight and there was traffic coming home. So Greg and Rhoda, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I first of all, I don't know what I missed, but I just want to thank you very much for the work that you're doing with the school system. I think it's incredibly important that this topic gets addressed with not only educators but with, more importantly, with students, because we've had the discussion here on this committee how important it is for the foundation for the rest of their lives and how they interact with other people. So I just want to applaud you, for taking this on. I think it's great. Becca, I don't want to restate anything if it's already been discussed. One of the, we're as a committee, we wanted to bring you in, A, to learn about what you're doing, and then B, to also find ways that we can work together and how this committee can help your organization be successful in what you're trying to do. And, you know, we've had many discussions amongst ourselves about the delineation between the school system and the rest of the town administration. So there's, you know, we have an understanding that you guys have, you're separate from the rest of the town organization. So we, you know, we want to respect that, but you know, we also want to be a resource and partner in any way that we can to help the school systems be successful.
Thank you, Tim. And Marion, great job chairing.
Having
And
so much
Marion.
fun.
I will just share that part of our philosophy too. It's you know, we are one community, the community of Northborough. We are a microcosm of the community. That part of the work that we do is really making connections. When you really get to know students, or students get to know their peers, or teachers get to know their students, that's the essential work, because when students feel connected to the school, they're more apt to be successful and be engaged and partner on the learning journey. I would share that we have the same philosophy with the community, that it's really around making connections with one another, neighbors getting to know neighbors, hearing stories, and building that sense of community. I think when that sense of community is built, I think that's when real discourse happens. People might not always agree, but there's conversations, hearing people's stories, learning, and our goal is really to help and be a part of that larger community and doing whatever we can to support that work.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It is so much about community, and it's creating a safe space for people to feel comfortable and really encouraging empathy and understanding more than anything else, and just giving people the room to be people. Did anybody have any questions? Lauren, I know that you've been our kind of liaison for this meeting.
Yeah, so I had a couple of questions gathered that we discussed last meeting. One that just came up to me as maybe a connection between, you know, as you were talking, Greg and Rhoda, about the equity audit. I feel like, you know, that's very similar to what us as Northborough's Diversity and Inclusion Committee is doing. Is, you know, we're collecting information and potentially going to have some of those community forums. And then we are going to go to the Board of Selectmen and say, you know, this is what we need in order to be a more inclusive community, be a more diverse community. So it's interesting that, you know, the school system is doing it, and then the town is also doing it. So I just thought that was interesting. So first of all, I don't want to steal your thunder, Deirdre. So Deirdre, do you remember your question? Because I have it written down from last time. Do you want to ask that?
I was actually just trying to remember my question from last time. I've written down several new questions since Rhoda and Greg were talking, but I don't remember my question from last time. So please steal away.
Sure. So maybe I'll just ask that question and then open it up. So one of our main questions really is, you know, as a school district, what resources do you think that you need to help support your DEI goals? That was you, Deirdre. That was your question. You know, as we as a committee think about what are we going to ask the Board of Selectmen for, what are our recommendations going to be, we want to be inclusive in including the school community as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And, you know, our primary responsibility is to educate. So whenever we look at the work we do, we think about, you know, how can we move toward educating not only our students, but our faculty and staff, and the larger community. So part of the work of that we've done as a district is have keynote speakers, and we try to have community speakers. And I think creating a partnership where, you know, the town of Northborough and the school department sponsor guest speakers, and then having opportunities for people to learn together and then come together and discourse around topics, whether it's neurodiversity or bias. I think the topic can be almost anything, as long as you're getting a group of people together to learn together, meet each other, and have conversations around learning. So I think that's one. I think that would be one powerful way that we could support each other in the work. And I think secondly, supporting, I think it sounds simple, but supporting the school's budgets in terms of really looking at what types of capacity do we need to do this work really well? What types of tools and resources do we want to provide our educators with to support the learning of our students? What types of professional learning opportunities do we want to provide our educators so that they have the knowledge and skills to be the best educators they can be? And I think those are the areas that we could use support on. And I think part of the support is supporting the budgets, which the community has done. And then I think lastly, I think we have a tremendous resource in our school system that is underused, and that is our students. I think we need to listen to our students. I think we need to learn from them, gain their perspective. So I think being part of that work is important. But I would say those are some examples of ways I think a partnership could really be beneficial.
I just have a follow-up question. I think what ties in somewhat. With all the work that you're doing, especially at the high school, are other high schools doing similar type of work? And I just know in the professional world, getting certificates and learning and adult education, those sorts of things in this field carry a lot of weight. And I was just wondering if since the students at Algonquin, if they're taking part in this, if it in any way helps or enhances their college admission in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So we are involved in a lot of professional organizations, and we are connected with the Metro West school systems. So Rhoda meets with her counterparts often, and I meet with superintendents. And I can share with you that the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion is a conversation, I would say, happening at all of the schools where I converse with superintendents. So I think it's pretty prevalent in terms of this work. At the high school, I think we have a great proof of concept in terms of kind of a concentration program, and that is the business concentration. And I will share with you that Algonquin Regional High School has a significant elective offering that most high schools do not have. And I know Brittany Burns is looking at a global citizen concentration where students can, their sophomore year, select this concentration and leave Algonquin with a concentration in global citizenship. We're also looking at opportunities potentially for students to have international travel and experiences abroad. So that's something we're looking at. And then we're also, through the work that Rhoda's done, we are also, we have the seal of biliteracy, which basically celebrates multilingual students. And there is a seal that goes on the transcript, and it really signals to employers or colleges that a person speaks multiple languages, which is an asset. And we're trying to really celebrate that. So those are some examples of some of the thinking we're doing and hoping to move forward. And specifically around the global citizenship is something that we're trying to move forward with.
Okay, that sounds great. I just know that with the number of students from the high school that do go on to college, if if there was a way to directly tie or support that this type of work helps students get some sort of advantage when they're applying to competitive schools. It's just, I think it would be a much easier sell from a budgetary standpoint. It's easier to get people to invest when they can see a tangible result.
I also think that I agree, and I think we're preparing students for the world of college or career, and those tangible certificates, I think, do make students more marketable. And I will share that we are also looking at opportunities for our Algonquin Regional High School students to engage in college work sooner, not wait until they graduate, but really look at their junior and senior year to engage in college courses that truly count for credit when they leave Algonquin Regional High School. So that's something that we're looking at, dual enrollment, making sure that expanding our offerings by partnering with other colleges and universities in the area.
Yeah, and thank you for college and careers. I was guilty of bias right there myself, so thank you for pointing that out. That's an important distinction, college and careers.
With the focus on global citizenship and being multilingual, is there a thought to increase language learning or expand language learning at elementary and middle school?
Yeah, so we, and Rhoda, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we had a world language study group that looked at our language program pre-K through 12. And the study group made several recommendations. One is to expand world language offerings at the high school beyond, Latin, Spanish, and French, but also looking at Mandarin and some other languages. And then secondly, one of the major recommendations was the importance of early acquisition of language and really looking at providing language opportunities for some of our youngest learners, starting in grades K, 1 and 2, and then moving through. So that is something we're looking at. And again, that is, asking how the town can support some of that work. That does come at a cost in terms of retooling our educators and hiring folks who are multilingual. So that is something we're looking at and hoping to move forward in the future.
And I'd like to add to that, Greg, as you know, it is so important to be multilingual in this world. We have in our community a lot of families, several families speaking Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, Chinese. And so I think part of your work that is important, that we recognize that the families are living in our communities, and that it's important that the children also maintain the language. It's very difficult to keep a child bilingual when there isn't a supportive, if you don't have your family around you and you're here. So those are families. We do a lot of work with our families within our schools. And we are more multilingual than probably the community realizes. We live it every day at school. But we're also aware, I moved here from South America with my husband and 2 children. So what it means to also acculturate in our community and feel that our families have a home here because they've come here and want to be a part of it. So I think that's a level of awareness that is good for the committee to have as well. As children add languages to their home language, we need the children that come with other languages to maintain those languages so that they can also be bilingual as they grow up.
Yeah, it's my next door neighbors are from India, and my kids are 8 and 5 and their kids are 8 and 5. So their 8 and 5-year-old is teaching my 5-year-old Hindi right now. So they sit out on the back porch and they draw everything out. And now my 5-year-old wants to teach them Spanish, but we don't speak Spanish. So now he's coming to me saying, how do I speak Spanish? And I'm trying to pull out Spanish from high school, so he knows about 3 phrases that are completely butchered and wrong. So if you happen to run into a girl
Old school.
speaking really bad Spanish, she got it from my 5-year-old. So yeah, but it reinforces that how important it is for, at least for me, what you're saying, I see almost on a daily basis of how important it is for kids to learn how to communicate and speak different languages, and how receptive they are to it. Like my 5-year-old's, excited about like taking his language lessons with the girls next door. So it's really great.
I also think, part of our work is really flipping the script that being bilingual or multilingual is an asset, and really making sure it's celebrated. And I think Rhoda has done great work around that through the Seal of Biliteracy, as well as just, educating our faculty and staff and providing professional learning opportunities to really think about language acquisition and celebrating the diversity. And just as Tim, you were talking to, we are becoming a very diverse community. And if you look at our preschool population, our kindergarten population, it is incredibly diverse, which is very exciting. But you can see the diversity. It's amazing. And as leaders of the school district, we get to see this in action. We get to see it happening. It's not always as visible to the community of the rapidly changing demographic and the diversity that's happening in both our communities of Southborough and Northborough.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Have you ever seen the documentary on Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes?
I have not.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, because Greg, it's a third grade. This is about, Deidre, when was it? In the 60s or 70s maybe?
Yeah, I think it was like the late 60s, maybe.
Late 60s, early 70s. And a third grade teacher in Iowa. Obviously her class was all white, and to teach the students the impact of racism, she split the classes up into brown eyes and blue eyes. So one day, if you had blue eyes, you were better than the brown-eyed people, and she made the brown-eyed kids wear collars so that you could easily identify them. It's fascinating. It's a really well done documentary. So it's just be something interesting if you haven't seen it to take a look at. It's amazing how relevant it is now.
What we were just speaking about how the children the classes are becoming more and more diverse. Has there been any efforts, or can you talk about the efforts to bring more diversity among the faculty and staff?
Sure, absolutely. So, I think our goal is to have a faculty and staff reflective of the diversity of our student body and our community. And I think our Human Resources Director, Heather Richards, is really rethinking about how we recruit and advertise and seek candidates for positions. We started advertising, our typical advertising would center around kind of our local geographic area. We are reaching now into Boston, Worcester, some of the areas where it is a more diverse community, to make sure we're casting a wide net in terms of recruiting folks. We are looking at different methods of trying to advertise positions. What we find most effective, though, is just networking. It's really having conversations with other superintendents, with other educators, with other directors, and really telling the story around, why isn't the public schools of Northborough and Algonquin Regional High School a great place to work? It's a really difficult recruiting time. It's amazing how this past year in the pandemic, it's been very challenging to hire, and we are not recruiting. We are not seeing a diverse set of candidates, and we're asking the question of why and how can we change that. We don't have the answers. We're reaching out to colleges and universities, and we're talking a lot to the deans of diversity and really trying to make those connections. But it is challenging. Our goal is to have a faculty and staff representative of our student body. I think that's an important goal that we do have.
So Greg, have you all reached out to some of the historically Black colleges?
I think I'm not sure, Virginia, I can ask Heather Richard. She's very well connected. She worked for the Newton Public Schools, and she has really, this is her second year, and she has really kind of changed how we recruit and how we network and how we connect. And being in Newton, she has a lot of connections. I can have a conversation with her to see if specifically she's reached out. I think that's a great suggestion.
There's also an organization, Coaching for Change. And one of the things that they spoke at MASC a few years ago. And one of the things they've done is they've worked with some of the schools to form partnerships with some university, with some diverse candidates, so that they would work with students in the school and go pursue their degrees. And then when they come out, then they had a home. And I can give Lauren the contact information for them. They did a project, and I think people in Lexington were going to reach out to them and try them as well. But I can't remember where the school, it was, they did do a couple of sessions in one of the local schools here. So, but I'll share that information with you. I don't know how effective it would be, but it's another avenue to take a look at.
No, we're open to all avenues, so thank you. I think one of the things we've also started to do is look at different sectors, to look at other sectors, people who might be career changers or haven't thought about maybe working in the field of education. And I think that is another avenue that we're trying to look at, again, recruiting a more diverse workforce. And I will share that there's recruiting, but also once we hire, it's retaining. It's also making sure that people we welcome into our organization feel connected and feel valued, and it's a place where they want to work and stay for a long time.
So one of the things, I think not just education, but all sectors of the place, they're having difficulty recruiting. A number of people are still uncomfortable because of the pandemic and also because of the stimulus packages and everything like that. So industries are having a hard time getting people, and they're thinking that perhaps around September, maybe things might open up a little bit as more people get the shots and the stimulus things run out and everything. So there may be more opportunities for all of us who are looking for people.
Yeah, I think we definitely can speak to that experience firsthand.
I know.
I have a question. Sorry, I joined the meeting late. Thank you for being with us tonight. My question is regarding the mascot, and I'm so happy about the result of those efforts, and everybody worked so hard on that committee. What can we do as a committee to help support the decision and the direction that the school is taking? Because certainly, as you wrote, or they wrote in the announcement, that there are Algonquin alum that don't support the decision. The decision is made, but what can we do to help support you and to share why it was the right decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think as I'm sure most of you know, this has been a 2+ decade debate that's been happening. And it was always our position that a mascot should not divide but unite. And I think the Students for Justice who created the petition, I think it was not their first attempt, but I think it was their most successful attempt. I think when we look at the mascot, we knew that there was going to be dissenting opinions, right? So our job, or the mascot studies group job, was to really collect data, present good information for the school committee to make an informed decision. Even when there's an informed decision, something like this can be very polarizing because there are dissenting opinions. I think it speaks to where people are on their own journey and understanding. I think how you can support us moving forward is we heard from a lot of dissenting opinions around, they felt like they lost something. And I think sometimes just being a voice that you support the decision. I think the school committee, I think anything you can do to say, school committee, we support you, because that's not who they're hearing from right now. They're hearing from, we think that it was a ill-conceived, poor decision. And that's one thing I would share. And the other, as we move forward in a process to determine what the next mascot would be, I think to engage in that process, to be a part of that, whether it's completing surveys or giving feedback or being on the mascot, study group to help come up with a new mascot. Anything to participate in the process would be helpful.
Thank you. One more question quickly. So can you give us a sense of, I'd love to hear that at the lower levels that we're seeing much more diversity, then that's what we want. That's fantastic news. What are we seeing at the high school level in terms of diversity, and more importantly, the Native American community? Because I think that's what I'm hearing mostly, is that, we don't have Native Americans or many in Northborough. So I presume, and I confess to not reading everything about the study group's work, but I applaud them. They did an amazing job. But can you just elaborate just a little bit about how many Native American members are in our community and how they helped in coming to this decision?
Yeah, so at the high school, and I would encourage folks to spend some time on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education website. They have district profiles, and they disaggregate all sorts of data. So it's a nice way to get a sense of, our school district in terms of, ethnicity, gender. There's a lot of different reports that data sets that you can see. Based on that data, we have 0 students at the high school who identified as Native American. So that is the current data. We do have in our community, though, we have Native Americans. In Southborough, our Southborough School District, we have Native American children. How did that weigh into our decision? So we really leaned on the tribal councils, so the Wampanoag, the Nipmuc, and we really tried to listen to what they were sharing, the impact that the mascot was having on the Native Americans. That's the voice we listened most strongly to throughout this process. And they also did some outreach to Indigenous people in the community, but also I think there was a woman in Maine who they connected with. We also connected with some folks out of Western Mass and sought their advice and input as well.
Thank you very much.
One thing that's come up, I'm sorry, Lauren, I saw you unmuted.
Go for it.
One thing that's come up a little bit based on things that both of you have said is the kind of the concept of belonging. And I see the mascot change is really a part of that, a signaling of belonging. Are there other deliberate things that you're planning that are more about creating community and belonging?
Yeah, so I think that, I think some of the work that we do, the deliberate work we do, is really having conversations with students around what does it mean to belong. One student might feel connected in one way, but another student might not want that same type of connection. So really working with our faculty and staff to think about our students and how to make connections, and also seek input and feedback from our students around how can we connect them? What do they feel is a strong connection to a faculty or an adult? For some folks, for some students, it's music. Some students, it's art. Other students, it's clubs and activities. There's a lot of different ways for our students to get involved at all levels, at our elementary schools, whether it's music, middle school, music, art, there's athletics, the high school. And we're really encouraging our students to get involved in something, to be part of something outside of the traditional school day, whether it's an art club or an athletics team or a drama program. And that is how we're really trying to create that sense of belonging, to be part of something bigger than themselves.
Does anyone have any other questions on this topic? I do have a question, but it's on a totally different topic. Okay. So in my view, and I'm not a parent, so maybe some parents could also weigh in on this, but I see the school district as really being a really strong source of communication, whether it be from the superintendent, the principals. I can imagine perhaps that, parents are constantly getting communication with their schools. And so, the schools are a voice for the community. So I'm curious, what role do you think that the school district plays in being that voice for local, global issues that come up, whether it be a tragedy, whether it be something hopefully positive? So what role do you see in being a voice, being the one to communicate anything related to DEI?
I mean, I think it's a great question. I will share that, and I'll use Needham as an example. They have a strong DEI committee that intersects the school district as well as the town. And when something horrific happens, or there's a response to an incident, either in our local community or the larger state or the country, they have a united response. So it's not just the town responding and not the school, or it's not just the school responding and the town. It is this united response, which I think is very powerful. I think that's what would be helpful for us as a school district, to partner and support a response rather than being the lead, because we are not a political arm. It's what do we respond to and what do we not respond to? It's the waters are choppy, and one way to help calm the seas is when there's a unified voice from a community, and I think it's very powerful. I do think we have a role. I think we have a role to educate, to communicate, but to respond to the larger political context, to the larger societal issues, that can be a very tricky area.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's well said. I had a follow-up question to that, but Tim, did you want to go ahead? Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I just wanted to add, I can appreciate the choppy waters. I totally appreciate and understand the hesitation for wanting to kind of draw the line between education and politics. Would it be something to discuss further as this committee continues to do our work, if we are going to release a statement on something that's happening, to reach out to you, Greg, or you, Rhonda, and say, this is the statement that we've crafted. Would you like to have the school's names attached to it or not? And if you don't, then there's no pressure to be included. It's just more if you want to be included, that we can provide you that option to save you from having to lead, like you said.
Yeah, I think anytime we can have a unifying message, I think it's more powerful. So absolutely, I think it's probably a larger conversation with, John Kader and, this working group, this committee, the police chief. I mean, I think there can be a lot of power in terms of kind of unifying messages, but yeah, I'd be willing to be part of that conversation. Absolutely.
Okay. I think that could be included in the recommendations that we make to the board is to put together a group or of some sorts of town leadership that releases unified statements when necessary. Sorry, Lauren.
No worries. I think that's great. I love coming up with solid recommendations. So thank you, Tim. So Greg, in some meeting in the past, I remember you talking about, we have Northborough as a community and the role that the schools play. However, we are regionalized at the high school. And so we have this larger community of Northborough and Southborough. And so I think that briefly last meeting, our group talked a little bit about that. And so I'm curious, since you sort of live in both towns, right? Do you see any partnerships, any opportunity to essentially, come together, like you said, to unify?
Yeah, and I think one role the school district can play, again, because we serve two communities, is providing the connections between the two communities. So these types of conversations and committees and grassroots efforts that are happening in Northborough are also happening in Southborough. Although we can't lead those charters, but what we can do is we can connect. So we have connected, I think all of you know Dr. Howland, and who serves on the school committee. She has this idea of the Lyceum and kind of reinstituting the Lyceum and a speaker series and an educational event. As a result of that, we've connected a couple of Southborough community groups who are also interested in doing similar work, hoping to kind of unite the two and really move that forward as not just the community of Northborough, but the community of Northborough and Southborough. Again, from my point of view, all of the students in Northborough and Southborough come together at Algonquin. So anything we can do together, I think it only sends a strong message to our students.
Thank you.
I don't want to keep you guys all night. So did anybody have any final questions? Did Greg and Rhoda, did you have any questions for us? Is there any?
No, I mean, I guess we are very open-minded. We are committed to this journey, but in no way feel like we have it exactly drawn out. So we are looking for guidance, and we are, that is part of the work of the coalition to have voices help lead the work, guide the work. So it's not going to be a perfect journey, but an important one, and we're willing to learn along the way as we move forward. And I guess I would just end by saying it's all about the students for us. It's really around, what are those going to be? What are those impactful things we can do where students can experience and learn and grow? Because that is our goal. That is our mission.
Yeah, and it's like I've said, we've all had that discussion in prior meetings. The importance of instilling a lot of this in our kids, and really hoping that they're the next generation that can really take a gigantic step forward in this field. And I think that's what motivates me in a lot of ways to do this type of work is just making the world a better place for people. So thank you both for being here. And again, sorry, Becca, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to thank you, Greg and Rhoda, for being here. Appreciate your time tonight. I do want to just really quickly bring up before you guys run. So we have we've also sort of like divided our group into sort of three little pockets of people to focus on different things. One of the groups is like community engagement and people who are focused on trying to bring opportunities for learning or experience to the community and finding a way to get diversity in the open. And so I think it would be great if those members of our committee who are focused on that, if you would be willing to continue the conversation as we work through our recommendations, because I do think, I know, Greg, you brought up the speaker series idea. I think that's phenomenal. Maybe we could work in the library with that too, have that as a location. So I think that that's probably the area where we're going to be able to connect the most. So just our group, I can't recall which of us are working on that, but whoever you are, you know who you are. I would just, Lauren, great, okay. Yeah, so just stay in touch if you guys are willing to continue the conversation. Obviously, we'd love to have your input, and if we can partner with you on something, I think that it's just better for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Becca.
Thank you, Becca.
All right, Thank you.
That was basically a summation of what I was just about to say, so thank you.
And again, thank you for inviting us this evening and having this conversation. You know, and if you have any idea, you know, after this evening, if you go home and you wake up at 2 a.m. and think of an idea, please email Rhoda, not me. We're all ears, so feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, and the same for both of you. If you have any ideas, if there's ever a topic that you want to discuss with us, come back in to meet with us. If we could be a resource for anything that you're doing, please don't hesitate to let us know. That's what we're here for.
All right, thank you.
You
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Excellent. Any follow-up comments or concerns or thoughts?
That's great.
Yeah, it was good to get some insight. Being new to town for me and having a son that will be in Northborough schools at some point, like it's really helpful to get that insight. I think one thing that I kind of took from what we looked at in the survey results is that oftentimes people don't really think that diversity and inclusion is something that's something that they should be focused on, or I should say their problem, quote unquote, because maybe they feel like they're not different, or they feel like they're, you know, it's just not something that they need to be focused on at all. And I think that the more that gets integrated into the school system with the younger generations, they can start to kind of grow up knowing like this is just part of life, right? You don't have to fit into a certain bucket for it to be important to you. So it's just really interesting to hear their perspectives on things that are coming up. So that was great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that they're brave enough to take the steps into this and understand that it's not going to be perfect, and that there are going to be missteps, but they're doing it with all the right intentions. I get concerned sometimes that people don't want to dive into this type of work because they think they need to be perfect, and they're so fearful of saying the wrong thing or stepping in it, and just fearful of what happens. It's hard. It's hard to do, especially for an organization where you have not only the students, but the parents that you have to be concerned with as well. So.
Absolutely.
I was really happy to hear that they're moving forward with an audit, an equity audit. I know that we've talked about that. I think that is something we're going to do. And I think it's helpful for us to be able to say, look, the schools are doing it too. Like we want to like proceed on the journey as an inclusive community. So we're going to do it for both the education arm and also the administrative arm. So I think that's, I'll probably reach out to Greg or Heather to see if they put together some sort of scope of work, just to see what it looks like, and maybe there are some things that the town might benefit from too.
I agree. It was super informative, and I'm like excited about some of the projects that they have going on. Yeah.
Virginia, I really liked your suggestion about reaching out to the historically Black colleges and universities and seeing if there's any partnership opportunities there. So I think that was a great suggestion. So I can certainly make sure that I follow up with Heather just to make sure that he gets that suggestion.
And I would also, it's historical Black colleges, but also like the University of Puerto Rico, University of Hawaii, those colleges, we've done those in the industry where I used to work. We reached out because those are sources as well. So yeah, those are good ideas, that you might be able to attract some people from there. One of the things I will share is we're working. So I think all of you know that MASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committee, has diversity and inclusion division. And so one of the things that I didn't want to say to them, we're working on a couple of speakers, and he's mentioned, maybe providing speakers. So I'm working on two. One, hopefully I might be able to have in May, and the other one, I think we're looking at either for September or for the MASC meeting in November. But I think what we should do is, when we know, I'll share with this committee, and we should also share with them, because I think they could benefit, for the resource, because we're paying for it. And they could just join us if we send an invitation and not have to worry about the money, because MASC will pay. So we'll lock some of those courses in with them.
And Virginia, you also mentioned that coach organization, and I wonder if they
Yes.
have some best practices. Like if you do partner and people move here, it could be very isolating for many. I mean, just culturally living in a different state is hard. And then being from a different background than the majority of people in the town, et cetera. So do they have ideas about like connecting in every state, including Massachusetts? There are clubs for people who went to historically Black colleges and universities. So connecting people with a list of resources that are like, you can find a bunch of ways to connect right here. You don't have to feel isolated or especially while you're getting to know people.
You have you have NSBIT, the National Association of Black Engineers. You also have they changed the name. It used to be this Latinx Society out of Boston. So they're available. They were connected with colleges, but they also have chapters in the local communities. And I'll pass that information on to Lauren so that she can share them, with Greg and Rhonda. So is it Rhoda or Rhonda?
It's Rhoda.
Rhoda.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share those resources with you.
And that's, Deidre, I would never have thought of that perspective of when you move into town, how isolating it can be. I wonder if we do have those resources, if we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion webpage for the committee, like if we can list those resources on our part of the website, so that when people do come to town, there's a place where they hopefully can find some information or.
Didn't we used to have like a not welcome wagon, but some sort of, is it still around?
I don't think so. It used to be one, it was actually called a welcome wagon. And when you came to town, they gave you a bag of different things, resources and things like that. I don't think it's still around.
I didn't see it.
We didn't welcome you, is what you're saying, huh?
It's okay. It's totally fine, but I don't think it exists.
Welcome.
I know that the Northborough Junior League does some type of welcoming, or they have in the past. I went to a couple of their meetings, and I remember that they recalled that. I don't know if it's something that they currently do, however.
What does the women's club, there's a women's club also. They do, I know they sell flowers. Is that the one you're talking about?
I think so. It is, yeah, the Junior League is a women's club. So
Junior League of Women or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put in a request with the selectmen for a line item in the budget to buy like a 1975 giant station wagon with like the fake wood paneling, and we'll have that be the welcome wagon. And then when people move to town, we'll just show up in their driveway, a big giant station wagon.
Love it. Love it.
As long as I get to ride in the way back. I used to good childhood memory.
With the window down, facing the wrong way.
Yep.
No seatbelt and hitting your head on the roof when you go over bumps.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, then I could totally see being like The question being at the next meeting, do you guys even welcome people in the wagon, or do you just ride around in it laughing?
Well, I mean, it would be something to think about. I was just trying to go in and see how many, well, maybe you guys know how many new residents on average we get, new households we get per year. You know, maybe we can somehow, I don't know, it's probably too expensive to
And
do.
that's something too, like Lauren, you mentioned the junior league. I mean, are all of those on our town website? Like, can you just go about looking at what you're interested in and what you could join in town, or is it more difficult to find?
They're on the web. A lot of things are on the website. If you go on the website and go through, they have different committees and things like that. Or a good resource, Tim, probably would be, we could ask Diane to help us probably identify some of those. Becca as well, you know? If Diane, if we could.
There's no, so when I was in Grafton, we did so you have like a welcome packet for new employees. We created a welcome packet for new residents. So but it wasn't so much like resource geared. It was more like, here's how to find out what day your trash gets picked up, and here's how to, you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit different, but it could probably be tailored, you know, a little bit more to include some of those kinds of resources, you know, information about how to get involved. I think that might have been included, like how to get involved in committees and, you know, the library hours, things like that. But it's definitely, I mean, it's doable. It's something we could do. And it would just, you know, I don't know that we need to drive around in a station wagon. I think most people probably would just go look for it on the website nowadays. So that's probably the best place to put it as a resource.
Boo, we need a station wagon.
It's better for the environment that way, Tim. Okay, it's better for the environment that way.
So I would ask Mary, do real estate agents give some kind of package when people buy homes here with information?
It's some do, some don't. Some do, some don't. So, not a lot. I mean, what we do is
would that be a start for us though, to hook into some of those?
To hook into some of what?
Some of the real estate ones that do put packages together?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even know where we would really start with that. So I just looked, for the last 12 months, single family and condos in Northborough, just on MLS that sold in the last year, is over 200 units. That's a lot. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know what kind of a budget we would have. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I think it would be kind of twofold. I think it's a welcome that we're not offering anymore, but also if we could somehow tailor it to what we think that person might be interested in, I don't know, or does that end up becoming somewhat discriminatory and people might feel like, well, I got this and you got that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There is a group that put together a resource book and they passed it out during Apple Fest last year. And maybe we could connect with them and they could think about they put all the different businesses. Do you guys have that booklet? No? Don't know what I'm talking about?
No. Well, even like Shika, when you moved here recently, what would have, I haven't moved in 21 years. So what would have been helpful to you? What would you have enjoyed seeing?
Yeah, I think some of what we've talked about, right? Like the resources in town, ways that you can connect with other people. I think that we have family that live in Westboro. And so we spend a lot of time kind of going back and forth. But I feel like it's harder to find a connection here. At least we found it to be more difficult. So I wonder if it's like opportunities to kind of highlight some of the key events that are coming up, like Apple Fest and other things that we do. Also, you know, opportunities to connect with other people within your community, or committees like this, right? And I think that we could easily build something that kind of highlights what it is that we're about and then have some sort of destination that they can go to. It doesn't have to be anything too big. People don't really like to read a lot of that information anyway, and people are trying to get rid of clutter in their house. So if we can try to drive folks to the website or wherever, or follow us on social media, or whatever that looks like, then we can help to, you know, not only let them know, but keep them engaged with us over time. So those are some of the things that would have been helpful for me, just understanding the resources in town, how I can better connect with other people, and like this committee and other committees, like what they're up to.
Yeah. Well, maybe the group that Virginia was referencing, who's already putting a book together, might be helpful to tap into.
I can reach out to the Junior League because they might have provided that resource book as well. And maybe just see what they've done in the past to welcome residents, and you know, whether they're still doing that or not. I mean, it sounds like not, if Sheikah hasn't received anything. And again, I don't know if it was maybe it's just new people to town who joined the Junior Women's League. I'm not quite sure, but maybe I can reach out to them and then follow up and see the history behind this welcoming brigade.
Yeah, and I think it's all I think it's all a great idea, like into putting all the resources together. Probably something that we should tackle at a later date, with everything else that we've got in front of us over the next couple months. But I agree, it's because I think it won't take long to put together and just getting something up on the website, but it's just a matter of time of coordinating what and when and how and who's the point of contact and all that other stuff. But I do think it's a wonderful idea, and I think it's important to have, you know, if you come into a new community.
Real quick, Tim, Liz Nolan just messaged me saying the guide that Virginia is referring to is Northborough Guide, printed book of businesses as well as organizations and resources. Thanks. Marielle, M-A-R-I-L-E, Borden is updating it, and she may be interested in adding some information. So,
Okay. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Yeah. So if if you have a follow-up conversation with Liz about that, if there's anything that they want to include, that would be great. Just let us know. All right, sounds good. At our next meeting, I will have some information around the survey. I've been working on that, so I'll have some stuff to share around, some data to share around that.
Can I say one thing about the survey real quick? I just want the group to know that there was a public records request made for the survey data. So it's going to go out to the individual that requested it ahead of, you know, the opportunity for us to really digest it. But unfortunately, there's no way around it. So I just want you guys to be aware of that.
Can you say a little bit more about that? Like, what is a public records request?
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry. It's public. So any work that's done by a public body, which we are, is considered a public record. And so all of the documentation that we put together, are subject to public record law. So formally, anybody can make a request, a public records request for any documentation, public body. We have 10 days by law to comply with the request. So, we can get extensions if there was an issue with the data. You don't have to create any new data or new documentation. You just have to provide what exists. So we will be providing the data that we collected to that individual.
And they just want to look at it before we release it. But that's all they want.
I don't know what
and providing recommendation. Like, What is their
Well,
purpose?
I'm not sure what the intent was. Somebody just emailed asking for the information. So I
Can
just
you
want
tell
you all
us
to
who
be
it
aware.
is? Because
I-
it's our data.
I don't
It's
know.
our data.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the
It's
town.
the towns.
It's the
Is
town.
it Colonel?
What?
I thought you said who it was.
Oh, no, I don't know the name of the individual.
Okay.
It came through the town clerk's office. The town clerk is the public records information officer officially.
So they're just getting all the responses too, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
getting everything.
we're not gonna create anything. They're just gonna get the raw data because that's all we have right now. We haven't had an opportunity to, put together any like charts or anything. So,
Okay.
but, and the intent, was not clear in the email. So I just want, in the interest of transparency, you all to be aware that it will be going out.
Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything else tonight?
I think that one thing we should think about, and I know we still need to put together our list of what we think we want to do moving forward, but something that has struck me is that we don't necessarily have a means for getting messaging out in a timely manner, right? Like we've talked about, putting out statements in the past. Well, I think we did maybe one so far, but I think that there's opportunity for us to be able to be a little bit more timely with things that are happening, whether in our local community or what extends beyond. So we can maybe talk about it the next time that we meet too, but trying to think about like what that looks like for this committee in the short term while we continue to sort of build out what we want to become in the future and what we want to grow up to be. There's so much that's still happening right now. And I feel like we're kind of missing those opportunities to be a voice behind DE and I for Northborough. So that's kind of like something that I've been thinking about. Happy to pick that up in the next meeting, but something to consider.
Okay. We can add that for our next meeting.
Thanks, Tim.
If there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Lauren Bailey Jones.
We have a motion to adjourn from Lauren and seconded by Virginia. Roll call vote. Mary Leach,
Aye.
Hamilton Soriano,
Aye.
Sheikha Holland,
Hi.
Deidre Writing,
Aye.
Miriam Ibrahimi,
Aye.
Lauren Bailey Jones,
Aye.
Virginia Sims George,
Aye.
Becca Meekins,
Aye.
and I, Tim Kalen, also vote aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Once again, a very productive meeting. I appreciate everybody and appreciate y'all putting the time into this. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple weeks.